It's over for you, Byron.
At least I can hear up here.
What? Me too. Well, it's 6 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. This is our city council meeting, October the 19th, 2017. If you would, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, yes, we are still here, and you know that. We live on a speck of sand in your grand universe that we call Earth. Decisions will be made and voted upon tonight that affect property owners' rights to this infinitesimal slivers of this grain of sand. Help us decide wisely and always keep the relativity of our size in perspective. We know you are watching. In your name we pray. Amen.
We're going to deviate just slightly from our printed agenda and have our public service announcements first, since we've got everybody's attention here now. So a lot of times when we finish up with some things, a lot of people would leave and not be able to hear these. So, Ms. McGrew?
Thank you for making this adjustment. There are only 2 more Saturdays for this season at the Canton Farmers Market. October 28th, Halloween Festival in conjunction with the last Farmers Market of the season. This will include a DJ, trick-or-treating with farmers market vendors and downtown businesses participating, a costume parade, and a costume contest. Farmers Market hours are 9 to 1. October 21, Family Fun Day and Children's Safety Expo in Brown Park, sponsored by WLJA Radio, City of Canton, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Enjoy Canton Magazine, and Carriage KIA, Kia of Woodstock. That's 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. October 28th, Police in the Park at Etowah River Park, 5K, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. November 11th, Canton Chili Cook-Off. Registration forms are available at Canton City Hall. That's also Veterans Day, and there'll be a parade. Cherokee County Arts Center, October 6th through 26th, Georgia Clay Council at the Cherokee Arts Center reception, October 6th, 6:30 p.m. October 21, J.R. Cochran Comedy Show at the Arts Center. Cherokee County Historical Society, they'll be having a temporary exhibit called Mapping Cherokee. It's open at the Cherokee County History Museum and Visitor Center. That's always a free exhibit. October 21 and 20th, Historic Homes Tour featuring Canton and Waleska, presented by the Cherokee County Historical Society. It's October 20th, it's 5 to 9 p.m., and October 21st, it's 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tickets are $25. The Canton Theater has opening November 3 of Over the River and Through the Woods. It's a comedy presented by Cherokee Theater Company. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any announcements? Okay. I have a distinct honor tonight to present to the 2017-2018 Teacher of the Year at Canton Elementary School, Ms. Kathy Fitz. I'd like for her to come forward up here so I can present this. We have presented to other teachers within our city, schools within our city who were the Teacher of the Year for those schools at our last meeting, and she was unable to be here, but I'd really like to present this to her and tell her how proud we are of her as being being chosen by her peers as Teacher of the Year for Canton Elementary School.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations
Thank you,
again.
guys.
Also have one proclamation today, and it's kind of important in the scope of things and the way things are going today, and I'm going to read it. There's no one here to receive it, as I understand, so it's called the Extra Mile Day. Whereas the City of Canton, Georgia is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas the City of Canton is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas the City of Canton is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas the City of Canton acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 575 extra mile cities in America, and is proud to support the Extra Mile Day on November 1, 2017. Therefore, I, Gene Hobgood, Mayor of the City of Canton, do hereby proclaim November 1, 2017 to be the Extra Mile Day. I urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, or world a better place. Next item, employee recognition and commendations. Police Chief Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. We have a couple of, we have one we call employee accomplishment, and then we have some, like you say, some commendations for an incident that occurred back in September. And we love sharing those with Council, Mayor, and City Manager in our community. So if I can have Sergeant Scott Hoffman, if you can step forward, please, sir. Monday, October 2nd, marks 30 years that Sergeant Hoffman has been with our organization and served the city and this community. We're very proud of him for this accomplishment, for the longevity and the tenure, the diligence that you serve this community with, sir, and the passion that you do. So with that, we're going to give you a plaque today for your recognition. This is not near enough. It's near enough for what your 30 years. We thank you so much for that.
Thank you, sir.
That's rare these days. You find someone that's been with the organization that long, and it's very, very important. Second, we have some employee commendations. If I can have Lieutenant Rodney Campbell. I think he's still in the back. He's coming. I was going to make him come up here. Lieutenant Campbell, Corporal Tiffany Cromer, Officer Daniel Mendoza, and Officer Christian Cruz. Step forward. Thanks to the audience. Back on September the 24th, it was a Sunday, officers responded to an area on John T. Pettit Street to the report of a kidnapping. And when officers arrived, indeed confirmed that it was a kidnapping incident where a female was taken against her will from the local fair. Tell you a little bit about what these officers, what they did is worked as a team, because not even several hours later, with the diligence of these officers here and work of the Tennessee Highway Patrol, they were able to locate the kidnapped individual in Chattanooga, Tennessee. When the call first came out, Corporal Cromer responded and coordinated the response as far as getting the lookout, getting the individual listed on our state computer. Lieutenant Campbell, he responded. He was off duty. He was asleep. He woke up and came in to assist the team. Officer Mendoza during that time was able to listen in to the victim who was actually speaking back to us on the phone. Was able to interpret that, and along with some other information and communication with the family. And Officer Christian Cruz was able to use the experience he has with our licensed tag reader, start getting that information entered on the state and national system. And everything that these officers did greatly assisted in recovering her. And because there's no idea, she was en route to Kentucky with this individual. There's no idea what would have occurred that night to her if the diligent work of these officers again, and with our partners in Tennessee, able to get her back to safety, which I understand now she's back safely with her family. So I just wanted to publicly recognize and thank these personnel for the work they've done that night. They did an excellent job. Thank you. They're going to be receiving letters of commendation, and that's what I'm passing out to them.
Our Chief Financial Officer, Nathan Ingram, has a special presentation to make now.
Thank you. If I can have Ms. Meyer, C.C. Meyer, join me. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for providing a few minutes for us to recognize and commend one of our employees. On August 8th, Ms. Meyer, in the course of her daily duties, was in the area of the Mountain View subdivision, and she noticed one of our senior citizens and residents in the Mountain View subdivision take a fall. She immediately pulled over and went to assist that individual. When getting there and finding the individual, found out that she was unable to stand on her own. And I think she had a gash above her eye and unable to stand on her own, so she contacted emergency personnel. And she even attempted to call a few of the family members, and probably most importantly, she stayed there with that individual until help arrived. It was later learned that that individual suffered a broken hip and ended up having to have surgery. Beyond that, I've even found out that Ms. Meyer visited that injured individual a couple of times after she got home, having the wherewithal to go by and make sure she was recovering okay. Her daughter commented to me that it meant so much to her to have you there by her side during that time of need. So I know they were very fortunate to have you on site, and we're very fortunate for your service to the city of Canton. That's the reason I'm glad to present Ms. Meyer the Outstanding Public Service Award in recognition for commendable and meritorious service to our community.
I know.
Congratulations. Thank you. Okay. Consideration to approve the agenda. We do need to add an executive session for real estate and litigation on there. So we'd like to add that on. Are there any other changes or additions to be made to that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented with that addition.
Second.
Have a motion, Mr. Grant, second by Ms. McGrew. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All members voted for the motion. Thank you. Okay. You have in your agenda package the minutes from the October the 2nd master plan work session and the October the 5th public hearing draft minutes and the October the 5th council meeting minutes. Are there any other corrections to those? Ms. Wilson?
This is not a correction.
Okay.
I want to thank our city clerk, Ms. Stewart, because I was not able to be at the last meeting, and because she has a synopsis of some of the discussion, I was able to keep up with the business that went on. So,
Great.
thank you, Lou. I really appreciate that little synopsis, very helpful.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Do I have a motion that we approve those minutes as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion, Ms. Gooden seconded the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voted for the motion. Okay, in our public input period, we have Larry Haygood.
Okay. I assumed that I would speak when the,
Actually, we've already had the public hearing on that case.
okay, so there's nothing to be said.
That would be my assumption, Mr. Peppers, our city attorney.
Up to you.
Well, but if we do, then how would that be as far as the others? I know that at the public hearing, there wasn't any opposition, I know that, but,
I'm not here to oppose it.
yeah, I understand. Since the public hearing has already been stated, I don't think we ought to open that at this time.
Okay, thank you.
I understand what you're saying. Okay. Anyone else? We have, Ms. Busey. Welcome.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity, everyone on the city council, I appreciate it. I live in Mountain View subdivision, which is off of 140, and most of you are probably aware, there's just about ready for a medical building to open up. Resurgence is going into a medical building, and there will be other tenants as well as Resurgence. We've always had a traffic problem at that intersection, but it's never been as dire as it is now, and I don't know if any of you are aware of just how dire it is. Jim and I, my husband and I went and really looked at it the other day, and when we leave our subdivision, not only are we going to have the people leaving the medical building across the street, but there are actually 2 exits to that medical building. We've got then traffic on 140 coming in each direction, but they have now, in the past week, have created a turning lane going into the medical building off of 140 coming from the west. So there are 5 places that the residents of Mountain View are going to have to look to exit that subdivision. No, up until this point, we haven't had a tremendous amount of accidents, I'm happy to say, because we've been very diligent in our subdivision. We've talked about this many times at our board meetings, about just the safety of it and that. But right now, I think the potential, when they added that other lane to turn into the medical building, you have to see it to really understand. They took away some of those yellow painted lines that they paint that you're not supposed to drive on, you know. They took those away and created this lane, but what it has caused, anyone coming out of our subdivision that maybe hasn't seen that they've done that yet, they're going to turn, if another car is coming this way and they turn just a little bit too sharp, there's going to be a very bad, that's just going to be one of the places there could be a very potential. And what I'm asking, the reason I'm here presenting this to you, back in 2011, my husband tried to contact GDOT because it was said by our board president that there had been an engineering study done. Nobody could find it. So we assessed that one hadn't been done. From 2011 till present, one has not been done. How GDOT justifies not putting a traffic light there is beyond me. But we can't get anything done. My husband has tried to contact GDOT. I have called and left a message with the receptionist. I have sent voicemails to people and sent emails to individuals. Somebody with the city that's no longer with the city gave me a copy of all the business cards for the people involved with GDOT. I did everything I know to do. I'm not asking y'all to take it over by any means, but I need some guidance. I need to figure out, our subdivision even did a petition, went around to all the residents in the subdivision. This was really before the beginning of the medical building even started. But I'm just lost for where to go. I don't know how GDOT thinks that they're beyond reproach, that they don't have to answer to anybody, and I just had questions for them. I wasn't gonna call them on the carpet for anything. I just needed their help to see if there was something like that petition, something like that, other things that we needed to do. So if anyone, has a minute sometime, they can call me or meet with me and kind of steer me in the right direction. I'd really appreciate it, and I know all the members of Mountain View would too.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Mr. Peppers, I think it would be in our best interest to have DOT contact them and have them evaluate that and report back to us exactly what they've got planned for that. Because I can see that's a terrible place anyway, without that on the other side of 140 and the curve coming north. I mean, you can't see very far anyway. So I would, let's see if we can contact them and see what we can find. DOT's first answer is always no. I mean, that's the first thing they'll tell you. You're gonna have to keep going and show them that the need is there before we can get anything done. Now, the other side of the street, that's county, isn't it? Okay, and this is, okay, I got you. Now, if we get an answer, we'll get it to you,
I appreciate
okay?
it. Thank you for listening.
All right. Under old business, we have discussion and possible action on Veterans Day Parade application. Let's go, who's doing that one?
There's really nothing more to comment on it. We're just moving forward with the approval.
Just moving forward with it, okay.
Yes.
Okay. And I assume that will be on, is it on the 11th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, November the 11th, okay.
Do we need a vote?
Yes.
I was second.
We have a motion, Ms. McGrew, a second by Mr. Grant. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the reason we needed to vote on that was because it's closing some streets.
That's correct.
Okay. Discussion and possible action on the settlement agreement with Riverwalk Townhome Association for $11,600. We had talked about that at our last meeting. Had to do with some landscaping that didn't tend to survive after we had a construction easement there, and we planted it back, but it didn't make it. So the question here is, we would be going ahead and paying them and letting them landscape however they wanted to, and we would be out of the picture completely.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, Mr. Russ seconded the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voted for the motion. Discussion of possible action on development agreement for 691 East Main Street. Mr. Peppers, you got anything you want to add to that one? We've talked about that one. The only thing that I would suggest, you got some date changes, right?
Yeah, we have to change the dates, and then Ms. Peppers had told me your other comment about tying us to the CO, not the.
I think that would make more sense, just as a safety valve there.
So what I think we're looking for in a motion is motion to approve it with changing the dates. I think we're just talking about moving it out a month, so it'd be end of January, and
Okay.
changing our obligation to do the sidewalk to 60 days after the CO is,
Okay.
after they, well,
60
it
and
may not
up.
be a CO, but
I would say the permit.
after the permits are pulled, right, we would have 60 days after the permits are pulled.
Okay.
Motion to approve whatever Bobby said.
Subject to the approval of the mayor and the city
Yeah,
attorney.
so
we want to come back and vote.
Okay.
What do you want, how do you want it worded exactly?
Well, it would just be a motion to approve with those two changes.
Motion to approve with those two changes. We've already talked about it.
She has the details,
Yeah.
the clerk has the details, so it'd be motion to approve with those
Yeah.
changes,
We
with
talked-
authorizing the mayor to sign, subject to approval of the mayor and the city attorney.
Thank you. Motion and second.
Ms. Goodman seconded that motion. Okay. Any other discussion or questions regarding that, Ms. Grant?
Just a couple of things. I just wanted to confirm that there are two, I guess, inspection reports. One from December 15th, 2016, I think by the building department, and then Chief Mitchell's letter from July 7th, 2016. And I believe this agreement calls for them to address every item on both of those correct. So I will just confirm that. And the other thing I was just wondering, and going through this a little bit more closely, is that on the sidewalk repair, it states that, you know, that we'll bring that up to code and we'll make those repairs, and that the property owners will have until the end of the year, but they can file, as long as they file their plans, and they have 3 months extension, as I read that.
Right, as long as they have started. We understand that things happen and you can't, if we pick a date, they may not be able to finish construction, but we want to see substantial progress, which we define as pulling permits and starting the work.
I was just wondering, I know that those sidewalk repairs need to be made probably regardless, but I know there's also some railings and things, so I was just wondering if we could make our repairs, you know, contingent upon, you know, them completing that instead of doing it prior to, or could those be on the same timeline?
That goes back to the CO type.
I think we'll,
frame, doesn't it?
well,
If we're in a CO situation, I'm not,
I don't think we're in a CO situation. I think we're just in an improvement situation. It's already a habitable building. It's just got some building issues. And so the problem is that, and the reason we would want to tie the sidewalk work to the permit is if, for instance, the folks doing this development agreement decided not to move forward on the project and somebody else wanted to purchase the home, they may decide that they want to do it in a different way. And so we don't want to spend a lot of money on the way we handle the railing and the sidewalk if it's not going to work with someone else. So we really want to make sure that when they filed their plans and their permits, what we're doing matches. Right now, the way the site's set up, there's a drop, there's a rail that's already there, but there's also steps that go from that sidewalk down to the property because the property sits below the roadbed. And, you know, the next person may come in and say, well, I'd rather have the steps here or the steps here. You know, we just want to be able to say, okay, the rail needs to go in this location. And we would probably do the steps as part of the sidewalk repair at the same time.
The only thing, my concern there is that just pulling the permits doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna finish the project. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's a pretty good indication they're gonna get started, but it's not necessarily means they're gonna finish. And if we went in and did sidewalk repair and they backed out and said, well, we're really not gonna do that, yeah, we've made a sidewalk repair that might not fit with the next person that takes it over.
But we're gonna have to make the sidewalk repair regardless.
Isn't there a public safety issue here?
The
We
issue is
we could possibly tie that into the next, but if somebody just comes in and tears that house down, let's say they do that, and wants to put something else there, that sidewalk like it is might fit. I don't know, I mean, it might not, it'd be a different repair scenario, I would think.
the issue that we have on the sidewalk has nothing to do with the property. It has to do with the fact that some of the earth portion beneath that sidewalk is giving way because it's cut out, basically. The property is cut down. So we're gonna have to shore that up anyways. And the railing up there doesn't meet our standards for other railings around the community where we have a drop like that.
So the sidewalk will be put back just like it is, but in good condition.
Correct. We're not changing anything. We may change some of the base underneath the sidewalk on that side.
That makes sense, but the steps to the private residence, are the steps typically covered by the city?
Well, they're concrete steps, so what we would do is we would work with the person who has it while we've got our concrete person in there working and see if we can work out having both done at the same time. Because that's gonna impact where we put our railing.
But we would also be paying for repairs to the steps.
No, we wouldn't pay for the steps, we would just have them poured at the same time with the
The
sidewalk.
property owner would pay for the
That's
repairs to the
correct.
steps. Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Is
We have
there,
a motion, second.
you want to restate that?
Well, I think it's just like it says, we haven't changed anything, we just
Other
clarified.
than the date.
We just clarified, except for the.
from the motion that you made, nothing
Yeah.
changed.
I'll do the motion again, you second.
Okay, motion is second. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Discussion and possible action on the Cherokee Water and Sewer Authority requesting the land for Lee Lusk Project Univetta Road to be transferred to the authority for sewer service. Any discussion?
I just have a question, Billy. We got all the paperwork back and forth now? Everybody's had their 15 days?
Yes, so the way the process works, we have 15 business days from when we received the letter, and so this is the first meeting we've had to bring it to.
In that
you, so-
15-day period, we're in that 15 days?
Yes.
So we approve it, then it doesn't go back?
No, what we're doing is stating something that will go back to them.
If we, yes, you can either approve it, or you can place stipulations on it, and it'll go back.
We kind of already approved it, but now we realized we couldn't approve it because the timing, it was just,
You gotta follow the agreement.
yeah, but we didn't do that.
Correct.
In case it was presented to us improperly. So that's the best way to say it.
The only stipulation that I would really like to see there is that the water and sewer line not be stubbed out at the exterior property boundary, and that it be 50 to 100 feet, no, a minimum of 50 feet from any exterior boundary. And I think I talked to Mr. Lusk about that, and he had no problem with doing that.
That's correct.
And we would still be serving the area. Does anyone else have a comment or question about that?
I move to approve.
With
Second.
stipulation?
Yes.
That he concurs with. Okay. Mr. Goodman seconded the motion. Go ahead.
So there's a stipulation, you said 50 or 100, so which is it? So
It's 50 or
50's fine on me, because it's gonna do the same thing. Okay. That's fine. I think that may be what I told you, I'm not sure. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members vote for the motion. Thank you. Discussion, possible action, the personnel manual revision. I believe we have talked about that a time or two, and our human resources person is here, Lori Waters. If there's any questions, Ms. McGrew?
I do have a question. On the page, it says 43, number 3, workplace violence. The last sentence of the first paragraph. This prohibition applies to city employees, vendors, customers, and visitors, whether or not the conduct occurs on or off city property. Does this mean while they're on duty, or does it include not being on the city clock?
I think it really applies to both. I would think on their own personal, if they're outside and not in uniform, in their own personal weapon, because we have to include that, it would be pertaining to just their proper conduct. Because nothing in this had changed from our original adoption. And so my understanding is that it's to apply, as long as it's, sorry, I want to make sure I understand what you're asking me, so.
I think it would only apply to work.
Right.
During work hours.
If they're
while
working
on
on
duty.
site. Right.
Correct.
Okay, that was my question.
The city, no matter where a city employee is working, we want a safe environment.
So if a public works employee is not at the public works facility, but they're on the clock, they can't have a weapon on them doing their work somewhere else.
Or in the vehicle with you, because that would be a city vehicle, because that would only be in your personal vehicle.
Got it, thank you.
And I think it's stated down below there. Right. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you. Motion to approve.
We have a motion, we have a second. Mr. Grant made the second on that motion. Any other questions, Ms. Waters? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voted for the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion and possible action on planning commission meetings and policies and procedures. Mr. Pat?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This has been discussed at length with city council over several city council meetings. Planning commission is in agreement to alter and go to 2 meetings, with one being a work session meeting, the other being the public hearing action agenda meeting if city council is so inclined to approve this amendment to the Unified Development Code.
Okay, and that is the first Tuesday and the third
Monday.
Monday. Any
Ken, does this allow or require 2 meetings? It allows it or it requires it? What happens if they don't need to have 2 1 month?
They just cancel. They just cancel if they don't
But
need
they
it.
don't have
If
to
there's
have.
nothing for a public hearing, then they would not necessarily have to have the work session meeting.
And that would be published, that there would be.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
The public hearing is on the third Monday, or would it be on the first Tuesday?
Third Monday. The work session would be on the first Tuesday.
And then the public would be invited to come on the third
Well,
Monday?
the work session would be open to the public, but there would be no public input
Okay.
on any matters discussed by the planning commission at that work session meeting.
They would basically be using that first meeting just to review and hear from staff information about, you know, zoning or what have you. At that next meeting, after they'd had a chance to review it, then they would take the public comment.
This would give them a lot more digestion time for the issue that they're concerned with. I mean, they can talk about it, and they're not gonna have to be meeting at 6 o'clock and discussing it, and then 7 o'clock, you know, they're voting on it. I mean, this will give them time to talk about it, discuss it, and then have 2 weeks in between, or I guess close to 2 weeks in between there, to think about it and raise any questions that they might have, so they can make really a better informed decision, I would think.
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Groove made the second. Any other discussion, question? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Discussion possible action on the annual update of capital improvements element and 5-year short-term work plan of the comprehensive plan for impact fees.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, council members, this is the annual update. It's a requirement of Georgia law because the city of Canton does have an impact fee program in place. We have discussed this, and staff would request city council approve this transmittal resolution. It has to go through a review and approval process at Atlanta Regional Commission, Georgia Department of Community Affairs, before coming back to the city council for formal adoption.
Okay. We have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. Mr. Goodman made the second. Any other questions or discussion regarding that? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voted for the motion. Thank you. Discussion and possible action on planning commission recommendation cases E1706-001 for Travis Nibble Homes, Inc. Requested R4 zoning for property located on Knox Bridge Highway.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, council members. The planning commission did recommend R15 in regards to this proposal. At the work session meeting, the city council asked that staff submit a list of questions to the applicant and property owner for their responses. Number one was would the applicant develop the property as a gated community? The response was no. Would the applicant agree to a master meter for water? The answer was not applicable since they would not agree to a gated community. Number three, would the applicant agree to 2,000 square foot minimum heated, cooled residential unit? Yes, for a 2-story, 1,700 square foot minimum. For a 1-story was the response. Would the applicant agree to 4-sided masonry or minimum 75% masonry exterior for the residential units? The applicant's response was no. Would the applicant agree to a minimum 8,000 square foot minimum lot size? The applicant's response was no. They would agree with a 6,000 square foot minimum lot size. Number 6, would the applicant agree to variable garage entry location? Some front, some side, some rear? Yes, where possible. Number 7, would the applicant agree to provide a street stub out to provide for a second ingress, egress in the future? The applicant's response was yes.
Okay, we have those answers, and of course we've heard the recommendation. Do we have any discussion or motion?
Motion to deny?
Second.
We have a motion to deny. Ms. McGrew made the second. Is there any other questions or discussion? Okay. If not, those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion except for Mr. Goodman, who voted no. Okay, so it's 5-1, that one. Okay. Next item, discussion and possible action on planning commission recommendation, case ZCA 1708-001 for the St. Bort Group. Proposed amendment to condition number 2 associated with the Canton Heights subdivision located along Knox Bridge Highway.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, council members, planning commission did recommend approval of this zoning condition amendment to allow it to go to the 178 units. In the package, you have a copy of a letter dated October 10th, 2017 from St. Bort Development, in which they list 5 items that they are agreeable to making conditions if city council is agreeable with those 5 items towards the amendment of the original conditions. I'll read the 5 if you want me to.
Yeah, would you please?
Number 1 is condition 2 of the ordinance.
It's not an attachment, right?
I can't find it. If you could read it, that would help. I can't find mine. I don't think you can find it.
It was,
Oh, okay.
Was the hand up?
yes.
Email.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Read that.
Number 1, condition 2 of ordinance Z 0407-002 is replaced with the following: property equaling total 29.13 acres more or less shall be developed maximum 6.11 units per acre. Gross total no more than 178 units. Top coat of 1.5 inch thickness will be installed on the existing roads within phase 2 in that segment of phase 1 known as Summit Point. Completion of this top coat will be done concurrently with the paving of phase 3, and its completion will be a condition of recording the final plat for phase 3 be inspected by the city. The roads within phase 3 will also be topped as a condition of recording the final plat for phase 3 inspected by the city, of maintenance bond filed with the city. The petitioner is the declarant of the Canton Heights Homeowner Association. Upon completion of the above improvements under the city's appropriate procedures in effect at the time association submit a petition to the city for its acceptance or consideration of acceptance for maintenance of the roads in the subdivision.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion, Mr. Goodman made second. Let me ask a question. How many homes are in phase 2? Do you know?
The 178 units would be the total for all 3 phases. In unit 2, I want to say there were about 40 or so units.
So that area would be top coated?
Yes, sir.
And then phase 3, which is a number of units in it? 3?
Yes, sir.
78.
78 units.
That's a good bit of pavement, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a good bit. Any other questions?
Is the motion to include the conditions? Is that your
I
motion?
modify my motion to include the conditions. I thought they were already included.
We just need to make sure the motion's clear that you're.
Yeah, with the conditions.
Okay, my motion and a second there. Any other questions or discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voted for the motion. Thank you. Item J, discussion and possible action on the planning commission recommendation case CUP 1708-001, Lennar, Georgia, Inc., proposed conditional use to build townhomes within the bluffs. We talked about that one?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, and there was a question, and we did include the email from the attorney representing Lennar, Georgia, in regards to they would be amenable to the condition both attached and detached products would be built at the same time.
Okay.
Motion to approve with conditions.
Second. Ms. Wilson seconded the motion. Mr. Grant made the motion. Any other questions or discussion regarding this? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Discussion of possible action on planning commission recommendation. Let's see, I did miss one. Case CMP 17080014 for Howard, Georgia. Proposed master plan amendment to establish residential development standards, setbacks, and lot widths within the bluffs.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, this has been discussed. The original conditions really only specified the setbacks relative to each pod or track that were really envisioned for technology office, and there was no thought given to any type of setbacks in regards to residential development. This proposes to establish what the lot width standards are in building setbacks, and they're similar to setbacks and lot widths that are established in other residential communities such as Town Hill, Park Village, Summer Walk, that are in the general area.
And my understanding was that the setbacks would be from the buffer line as well, so.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Russ made the motion, Mr. Goodwin seconded the motion to approve. Any other questions or discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The next item is discussion and possible action on the Canton Exchange water and wastewater tap fees.
We discussed this at the last meeting, if you recall. We did receive a letter on October 11th from Perlis Niece, who's doing the development at Canton Exchange, and they give, of course, some information about the project. They're requesting a 75% reduction in the tap fees. I did reach out to the company. My recommendation to council would be no more than 50%, just based on the fact that with the property taxes paid in, that would put us right around 5 years to at least recoup what we would be losing on the tap fee side and the tax side.
Mr. Grant?
Yes, I know when we discussed this at the work session, we were tossing around 30% based on what we've done at Riverstone and trying to be consistent in that. And I think at the work session, the math worked out to around 2 years. So I think there's a big difference between 2 years and 5 years. And the question I have, or concern probably, is that with all the anticipated development on 20 out to Scott Road, I think our service area goes to, is that, you know, setting that precedent, and then how much are we going to be losing in our tap fees and sewer fees going forward? And we all know that we are going to have major investments in water and sewer. And so my concern is that we just kind of keep discounting and discounting and discounting. I started my career in retail, and they said you go on sale, you stay on sale. But to me, there's still a difference. I mean, 75 was a huge difference. You know, 30 and 50 is still, to me, a huge difference. And I mean, I would much rather be consistent with what we're doing at Riverstone, especially anticipating all the development that's going to go beyond that development, the proposed development, all the way out to Scott Road.
I would say that there's one, to me, there's one difference between this particular project and perhaps the Riverstone area. But first of all, most of the Riverstone area was already in the city limits. And so this is truly an area where you've got an annexation to come in. And also, the applicant is having to pay into, if you recall, they're having to make a payment in the Canton Marketplace for some of the infrastructure that was placed out there above and beyond the tap fees that they're paying into the city, which is a little different than our scenario up at Riverstone, where all of the fees are coming to the city and there weren't any payments into another developer.
Those payments aren't coming to the city though, are they?
No, they go straight to the developer.
Right. What we would be doing, I mean, I do think Mr. Grant has a good point there, that if we do 30 or 50 or whatever, we gotta be prepared to do it the rest of the way out, because all that's in the unincorporated area on out through there. And we would have to be prepared to do it, you know, we will set the precedent, whatever it is, for the rest of the service delivery area out to Scott Road.
Mr. Mayor, it's also my understanding that since these plans were already presented to the county before this request came, is that with those buildings in process, this development in process, we would not even receive any of the, inspection fees, and those will all be going to the county. So we're also giving up, those potential fees in addition to, additional discounts on water and sewer. Is that correct?
I think some of it's gonna depend on the timing of the annexation. We may give up the fees on the exterior permits, but some of the interior build-outs and things like that might come through the city. It just depends on the timing of the annexation, and I think that's something that you could discuss as part of the reduction in tap fees, is what that expectation for annexation would be.
So I would see a scenario where all development beyond that, all the way up to Scott Road, would sort of follow the same formula and, start the projects with the county and then ask to be annexed to the city for the tap fees, matching the 50%. So it just concerns me on the precedent that we're, I think there's some major development there. I've seen the plans, but we're giving up a lot of revenue, especially in water and sewer, where we probably need it the most, but it's my concern.
We have also in the past used the formula of allowing developers to put in all of the infrastructure and then recoup a portion of it as others tap into the lines. Of course, these lines are already there. If you decided not to reduce the fees at all, they probably would annex into the city. We would just serve them as a water and sewer customer.
Do we have a motion? Another discussion?
We have to decide the percentage before we, in the motion, we will go all over, but not between 75 and 30%.
Well,
They want 75, there is no proposal here for a percentage, is there? It just.
Their letter requests
Their letter
75%.
requesting it, so we'd have to
The
decide.
one thing that I think we don't need to lose vision of here is the fact that we have tremendous water and sewer needs out there. And realizing that we may be recouping some monies from property tax, that's a different bucket of money. That property tax doesn't go to build those wastewater treatment plants or run those lines. It goes for other things, police protection and so forth. And what we're giving up is water and sewer money. So we need to kind of remember that, I think.
I think there might be another way to look, go ahead.
Sorry, Ms. Wilson, go ahead.
We do want these businesses to annex into the city, and one of the reasons for reducing is to make it more palatable.
Of
to do
course.
that. And we'll be collecting impact fees, I assume.
I don't know, they're getting the permits in the county, not in the city. Won't be getting any of that,
We'll be getting property taxes
and that's it.
and a percentage.
We get
of the-
property taxes, business license fees associated with the project,
And the
and then
regular
a regular portion of the SPOS, which we would get regardless.
Keep in mind, the property taxes will be, you gotta think about net, because we'll be providing services, so it's not like you're getting all that to offset the amount that you discounted, because you're providing police and other services there, fire.
No,
But we will have them in the city for the long run,
I would hope so.
I think,
rather than leaving them in the county.
Sure.
So, I'm amenable for 30%, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm fine with 30%, just be consistent.
It would be easier to be consistent with the Riverstone, what they're getting over there now, which is the same, yeah.
I think one thing we have to look at is they came to us, we're not out trying to solicit annexations. And they came to us, and Billy makes a point of 5 years, we start to collect taxes. If we turn them down at 70, and we stick at 75%, or I guess you wanna go to 30%, so that would mean we're discounting it down to, we're just taking 30% off as opposed to 75%, 45% difference. In 5 years, we get 0 taxes if they turn us down, and this way at least we'll start to collect revenues in 5 years. So if you look out at a 20 or 30-year project, you're gonna get a lot of money versus potentially 0. And we're gonna still have a lot of the problems, because this is right across the street from Canton Marketplace, and we have an opportunity here, which we may never get again, to close the loop between, with the county running right down the middle with 20, to close the loop on both sides of 20 with city property. And frankly, I think to go back and with only 30 is a mistake. I think they might not go for that, but that's.
If I could give you just a little bit of my logic looking at 50%, we currently have 2 reductions on the book. One is 80% for downtown, and one is 30% at Riverstone. And the way I was looking at this particular situation is, downtown, for instance, at 80%, was used as an incentive, of course, to make development occur downtown. All the streets downtown, however, are under our control, and we have to maintain those streets, we have to pave those streets, you know. Highway 20 is under the maintenance of GDOT, so our service out there for a commercial is mostly gonna be on the public safety side as it relates to that. So in my mind, I was trying to think of what our service issues were as compared to the.
Well, now, you have to keep in mind that Riverstone is also under state jurisdiction, okay? And it is removed from downtown, very similar to this. Should we give this exit 19 an advantage over Riverstone? I mean, that's a question.
Well, and that's where I go back to the logic of this developer also has to pay additional fees to get into our system through a third-party developer, because the city at one time allowed that third-party developer to be a part of getting our pumping system in. So Sembler is getting a cut above and beyond what, you know, if I was doing a project in Riverstone, I would have to pay out there. So this particular project is not only paying our tap fees, but they're also paying Sembler for the infrastructure that they put in out there, whereas Riverstone would just tap directly into our line. So I think there's an additional cost for this project that a Riverstone parcel would not have to pay.
And we, the city of Canton, approved that Sembler agreement.
Correct.
So we put ourselves in kind of a situation where maybe 50% makes sense because of that. Is that?
That was just kind of the logic I used in my mind.
Yeah.
So let me ask this question. What about the unincorporated area on up to Scott Road? Is that gonna be the same totally? Are they gonna be able to get into that pump station and so forth, just like this?
So they gotta be annexed first, they gotta come to us and ask to
Wait
be
a minute.
annexed.
I don't think it goes all the way to Scott Road. I have to look back at, there's a map of certain properties that are part of the deal. And I don't think it goes all the way to Scott Road.
They may never
I
come
don't
to
think
us
it goes
for
above Brook
annexation.
Park.
No, I think it stops at Brook Park.
Service area,
But this deal about having a December stops at Brook Park.
Right, that's correct. And so this is a special scenario because they fit in that area.
Here's the dilemma we're gonna be faced with, is that if we put up a motion for 75% and it gets defeated, then we can come back to 50% or agree to a percentage and then vote on that percentage. You know what I'm saying? I don't think we're in agreement on the percentage here. So how are we gonna?
Somebody's got to put out a motion.
Mr. Grant. you
I'll make
have-
a motion at 50%.
Wait a minute,
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, that's my turn.
Thank you. Two things on your logic, Mr. Peppers. I understand that that the developer is going to pay more money because they have to tap into Semblers, but keeping in mind that we gave all those bricks to Sembler, so the developer had paid more money, but in reality, we're losing more money in water and sewer tap fees, I think, in the long run. But and the other, on closing the loop on city, we aren't closing the loop with this development because we still have racetrack, AT&T, those parcels there that are still in the county, so we would still have that gap.
They could come
Going
in,
up to this-
I think they
They
could come in,
could,
they
but
could.
there's
They're gonna be
no
surrounded by
incentive
the
right now for them to come to the city,
No,
so.
no, they're surrounded by the city, they may choose to do that. I would agree with you. No,
You're not surrounded now, though. Not yet.
no, if we go ahead with this.
I think with this project, there's gonna be a light, right there. And also they're gonna be redoing that road coming straight across. So I think the incentive's really gonna be for the city. And we're going, that'll eventually go down to where our trail is. So, you know, it makes sense to me that we should try to work with it.
You talking about the traffic light at Olive Garden?
Olive Garden traffic light's gonna be put in, and that's gonna connect a lot of stuff right there back.
But it's not gonna go over to the Olive Garden, right? I mean,
It's going over
you
around
won't be able to
Zaxby's.
drive
It's
from
going
one
over-
side of 20 to the other side.
Yeah, you will. Zaxby's, it's supposed to be
I thought it's still gonna be a right in, right out there.
supposed to be a traffic light.
They're putting a traffic light there, I know, but I understood that Olive Garden hadn't concurred with that at this point. And they needed,
The developer's here if you'd like to ask
Yes.
about that design of the light.
is that the case? What is the case on that?
It will be. Scour along with Pearl Street Development. Everybody's a little bit right. There is a traffic light that will control traffic on 20 and into and out of our shopping center. When they widened Highway 20 here in the last year, they added this few extra lanes there. Right away, we would have it required from the owners of the Olive Garden, that's a real estate investment trust out of Arizona. We tried about 6 months ago with that deal. So Highway 20 will be controlled, our traffic will be controlled. They will remain the right and right out for now until Highway 20 is widened in the next year. And when that comes, the DOT and that question is just gonna take it. So it will eventually be a through light as soon as the rest of Highway 20 work goes on.
So that's assuming that they may have to condemn the property to get it. Is that
I'm
right?
sure that they'll work with the DOT a lot faster than they would.
Yeah. I agree. That makes sense. Yeah.
One other thing, the Doss Road, is gonna be right across from where the road coming out of the shopping center now, right?
That's correct. We have connectivity behind the racetrack to Old Doss Road, that we can connect our shopping center all the way through there. The DOT had put a condition on us that we not do that, of course, until Old Doss Road is improved in that light. The Old Doss Road kind of comes in, takes a sharp right and left back on the Highway 20 right now. But we do have the rights to connect into that once Old Doss Road is straightened up with Highway 20 for widening. Yes, sir.
How much additional property do you control up there? Because somebody told me there was 6 to 8 restaurants coming in there, and I don't see those right now, so there's something else behind you?
We got 3 up front right now that will be opening probably the next.
I think these were more fine dining restaurants, or
We have some other restaurants down below that we're still working on leases with. There's probably another one to two restaurants downstairs, down right now.
Down low,
down below. But is there,
we control the property in between the Dunkin' Donuts strip and AT&T, and we are also gaining control to the right. We're having to grade that road to have our right in, right out, and we will control that property and have room to do another restaurants.
so ultimately, there's gonna be more property that you will develop in that?
That's
sector,
correct.
that you'll-
And one thing I would like to point out, you were talking about the kind of the setting the precedence moving forward, is that this is a really sizable project, that I think kind of lends credence to the development, Highway 20 further, with Canton, underneath the Canton umbrella. It's a little different than a smaller, single out parcel when you're doing this size of a project. When we were talking last, at work with the council a few weeks ago with the workshop, the topic of precedence came up then. So we kind of looked back and looked, and really that's what we came up with the 75% number is we asked the tenants what other developments are even in the state of Georgia right now that have been developed in the last 2 years. The 2 answers we got back, one that just got finished and one that's about to go under construction, both had either 80% or 100% reductions in property taxes as well as on tap fees waived. So that's a significant swing in comparison to that. It's pretty good. Now those are, they have to be viewed in the eye. Sometimes those are going into a county where the full property tax is being realized by the municipality. I understand that we're only a few mills here, but a 20-year precedent for property tax abatement, I think, it would far exceed the 75% we've asked for with that. So,
So you're saying we're getting a deal?
I think you're getting great.
We haven't made the motion yet.
No.
That's great.
Just one point or one thought here. I think it's a great development and we'd be proud to have it in the city. Taking that aside though, however, one way I approach it is more of a long-term approach where we know that our water and sewer needs are only gonna grow and our expenses are only gonna grow. And at some point, we're gonna have to invest in that, which is going to cost our taxpayers money to invest in water and sewer. So we are, I kind of agree with the mayor that, the property tax and water and sewer are two different things. So, I mean, you could argue in that scenario that long-term, the more we keep discounting our tap fees, that the more money that our taxpayers are gonna get stuck with on upgrading our water and sewer needs going forward.
Over time, we're gonna have to raise water and sewer rates. I mean, we're not planning to do that because of this project, but that's just natural. It's gonna happen. So you can't actually look at revenues today anyway. 20 years down the road, I'm sure water and sewer is gonna cost more.
I'm not looking at revenues, I'm looking at expenditures. We already know we have some major.
Well, that's why we raise your revenues, so you can pay for the expenses. So
Exactly, but we're talking about reducing revenues here, so, thank you.
Oh, well, up front, but we're gonna get it back. Bill, and we're gonna collect revenues on the water and sewer for, I mean, you're saying we're gonna get that anyway, I guess, right? We won't get the taxes though, if we don't allow an excess.
Yeah, the water and sewer was, we would have those.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Is everybody done talking? Because I wanna make a motion at 50%.
The only concern that I have is what happens out beyond that. Now, I know you said that they were this was a big deal, and it is a big deal, and we'll be glad to have it. But there are several tracks up through there that's been put together and sold in the last couple of years or so that could be substantial developments, just on up to Scott Road. I mean, it could be really big. So, I mean, I think that's, whatever we do, in my opinion, we're gonna have to say, this is what we're gonna do up to Scott Road. Because the next one that comes in for a development, whether it's the hospital, who has other tracks up through there, or what, they're gonna be asking for that same thing. So whatever it is, we just need to set our sights on the fact that will be, we're setting the precedent for that, whatever it is, in my opinion. And I think it'd be hard not to do it for someone else, if you did do it for them.
No, he just told us it was a good deal. The next one that comes in, they're gonna ask for 100, not 75%.
But you don't think the next one's gonna tell us it's a good deal too?
At 100? No, I don't. Well, we don't have to listen to it. We got a precedent.
I understand.
Thank you. I'm curious to know if Mr. Peppers or anyone from the city has talked to Racetrack, Verizon, or AT&T about being annexed into the city.
I have not yet. It's kind of interesting because I think some of those businesses thought they were in the city to begin with
Right.
when they opened. In my mind, to me on the north side, at least right now, Brook Park is kind of that natural barrier. It's never going to annex into the city, but as we've added that parkland on the back side of that stretch to the river, I think it's in the city's interest to try to pull in that entire block to really square up those city limits. And, if you've got something that's already developed, it's a lot harder to get them to annex in. You're gonna have to have some type of incentive to make that work. Working with somebody before it's completely developed, it's not the best scenario because of course you'd like the building permit fees and impact fees and things like that, but at least it gets you ahead of the game to some extent on bringing them in, so.
Let me ask a question. Will the signs that you have there, will they conform to our city regs, or are they gonna conform to county regs?
They'll conform to your regs. When we rezone this property, we have to meet the street shade requirements that the city has.
Okay. Some of the others did not, as you probably know.
No, I don't think
Yeah.
they did. We have a maximum height and square footage of our sign that we have to
Good.
be for development.
Okay.
County regs are more lenient than ours? Is that fair, for
Some cases, yes.
I believe in some cases, I think they have some different things they look for in designs as well, too. I think y'all should more like the size of that.
But when we looked at theirs, the sign that they're proposing is in the range of the signs that you have for Canton Marketplace, for Target and
Yeah.
Lowe's and all of that, that bigger sign, but it's got everything that's in that center on that one sign.
All right, anything else? Anyone else?
Are we making a motion just to reduce, make the 50% or 30% or?
Whatever the motion would be to reduce the fees contingent on them annexing into the city.
Okay, then I've changed my mind. I want to make a motion that we propose a 50% reduction in fees rather than 75 they asked.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
I have a second, I'm in.
You're the second.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Russ made the second. Any other questions or discussion?
I'd like to see them in the city.
Okay, if not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion with exception of Mr. Graham. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
50%. Okay, Mr. Pepperson.
I just have one item that I wanted to bring to your attention. We had a wonderful Developers Day event downtown today that the Downtown Development Authority put on. And one of the things that we announced there, and I wanted to make you aware of, is that we have started what we're calling our Development Review Team, which is a meeting that we have every Wednesday, and we allow individuals who maybe are acquiring property, or maybe they're working on a project, or they're an entrepreneur and they're looking to build a business in the city. They can set up an appointment with our community development office, and at that meeting we have our planning staff, zoning staff, engineering staff, stormwater staff, building staff, fire staff, everybody who would have a stake in any major project is there, so that everybody can discuss the project at one time, review the plans together at one time, review all comments about the plans together at one time. We've been doing that now for 3 weeks? 2 weeks. We had, I think, 4 or 5 applicants with us earlier this week. It's been very well received by the local community, and hopefully we're streamlining that process a little bit to make us a little bit more business friendly. So we're excited to let you know about that.
These are all staff members, no council members are on this?
No, it is just a staff.
Okay. And who's the head of it? Who's in charge?
Mr. Patton is.
So if we wanted to refer somebody, we'd just refer them to Ken?
That's correct.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay, we do have an executive session to discuss litigation and real estate.
Before we do, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
We talked a little bit about racetrack and Verizon, that they're still in the county and that we'd like to close that out. Would it be something that you fellas might approach the owners to see if they were at all amenable and maybe make some kind of incentive?
I think it's a good idea. Go ahead, that's a good idea.
Since maybe we could close that up.
Do we want to wait till they approve of our 50% first, or not? Just go now?
No, I think they would have you.
Just try anyway?
That's what everybody else out Highway 20.
Is it appropriate? Is that a letter?
One thing I was thinking, on down, we can't annex past Brook Park, we stop there, right? So the other people won't become annexation.
Yeah, they will too, because you can go up the other side and go across the road.
Isn't that directly across from Brook Park as well?
What?
The city limits only go up to the road down.
Well, it's got nothing to do with the city limits. This is the water and sewer service
They
delivery.
have nothing to come ask you for, they can't annex. You don't have any reason to discount any fees to anybody else.
So you don't think that parcel just south of Key Drive that the hospital bought will be annexed? It has not been
How does
annexed?
it touch the city? That's what I was wondering about.
I don't know if it's in the city, I assumed it
But
probably was.
the car place isn't in the city, I don't think. Or, no, it might be because it's part of.
The tire place?
Yeah, it's part of Kent Marketplace, so it might be.
That's where.
And I know the next parcel, Ken,
That Goodyear Tire Store, and that property there is the extent of the city limits. Property on the south side of 20 from there, eastward towards Scott Road is in unincorporated Cherokee County.
So, yeah, we could annex on the south side and then jump over.
jump across if that's what they chose to do, yeah.
I had one other thing that I forgot about. I did want to update you on some improvements that Public Works has done, just so you know. First of all, the playground equipment that we approved for Etowah River Park is currently going in right now. The construction, it's about, I'd say they're about 50% done on that project. We're just awaiting the basketball goals at Birch Park. And then we have also ordered fountains for the trail as it goes from Etowah Park into Heritage Park. Those fountains have a pet fountain, an adult fountain, and a child-sized fountain that's also ADA compliant as part of the system. And as soon as we get the water line put in to run those, we'll get those in the parks.
No fountains for kids to run through?
No, that's not in the list.
We don't have one of those in Canton, do we?
No, sir.
Yeah, we do. That's a great thing to do. I mean,
Mr. Greer? Yeah.
I hope we'll plan a ribbon cutting for the playground
Yes, ma'am.
and have lots of kids there for the ribbon cutting.
We had, we were trying to get one together sooner for Birch Park, but there was a delay on the basketball court out there. We wanted to get that completed, but we'll be doing one for that. We'll also be doing one for the new playground equipment at Etowah River Park.
And I'd like to request that we let the schools know
Absolutely.
that we're going to have this ribbon cutting and that we have installed this special playground so that their children who are wheelchair bound, using crutches, sensory and motor skills, so that they'll be aware that the playground is there, and a special invitation to them.
Absolutely.
Mr. Gray?
Yeah, quickly, I met with some concerned citizens a couple weeks ago at the farmers market about the crosswalks on North Street there, which had the one going over to the old courthouse had no markings at all, no signage or whatever. And so drivers coming down through there, didn't see the crosswalk. And so I pointed that out to Mr. Peppers and Scott Hooper, and as of today, we have the crosswalk signed, and I always just want to thank you for your quick action on that. I think our pedestrians are going to be much safer with that signage there. So thank you very much.
Was there no paint on the, no, there is now.
It's just hard to see because it's just
But there is now. There is now.
Ms. McGrew, do you have something else?
Yes, I do. I was writing while you were talking about the water fountains. There are 3 levels.
Yes.
ADA compliant. They've been ordered. Do you have an estimated date? And I know dates change. Do you have an estimated time of arrival?
I don't. We have, first of all, the fountains haven't arrived here yet. And as soon as they get in, we'll have to run water from the closest source to those. So
About how much will it cost to run that water?
I don't know yet.
How much are the fountains costing?
I don't.
And you can email that to me.
I will. I don't have that number in front of me.
Sure, and I
But I'll get
understand,
you
and
that.
I apologize for putting you on the spot, but if you'd email that to me.
Yes, ma'am.
To everybody, that'd be great.
Okay, anyone else? If not, I need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion
Nobody do it.
Motion to go into executive session.
All in favor?
We're not
Now,
coming back out.
we don't need to come back out. We'll be back out after that. Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Nightmare, and it's gonna get worse.
I I'm sure they have improved from what they were.
What we're gonna have Billy do is contact our Cartersville representative of the DOT and have them give us whatever evaluation they have, or if they don't have something, do one, and we'll let you know. I didn't think it.
Billy did that one while I was out. Well,